2011年嘅 NAB Show 又喺拉斯維加斯開始咗啦。NAB 係咩呢？就係 National Association of Broadcaster， 顧名思義呢，就係啲各種廣播公司啦，或者賣啲儀器啊，賣啲攝錄機啊，賣啲軟件俾啲廣播公司嘅公司仔一堂，大家有機會見大家睇有啲咩新設施、新儀器嘅一個場所啦。咁有成超過150個國家嘅即係呢個啲 professionals 咧，就嚟參與，有成9萬人參加添嘅，哇！真係好多人。咁今年嗰個 keynote address 咧，就由 Jim Cameron， 大家都識得啦。Jim Cameron 咧就係拍 Titanic 同埋最新嘅 3D、3D Avatar 嗰個導演，同埋佢嘅拍檔 Vince Pace。咁 Vince 咧，佢就係仲係呢個 3D 嘅一個技術嘅表者添，因為佢直情係佢始創咧，將兩個 high definition HD 嘅攝錄機咧，將佢擺埋喺隔離啦。但係咧就有即係嗰個對焦嗰個角度咧，就有得調校嘅，咁就製造更加靚嘅 3D 效果啦。咁佢哋呢兩個人咧就喺NAB Show 咧就 launch 咗佢哋間公司叫做 Cameron Pace Group。咁喺佢嗰個press conference 咧，佢哋咧就答咗一啲記者嘅問題。咁大家慢慢聽下佢哋兩個精彩嘅見解啦。
Right now, a lot of the things going on the show floor are pushing to 2K, 4K for the new workflows. Is your 3D setup being targeted at workflow for these higher res, or are they under the standard filming model that's been in place?
Well, I could do an hour presentation, and I did recently at CinemaCon on high frame rates versus, in other words, temporal resolution versus spatial resolution. There's a big push for 4K. I'm somewhat cautionary about that because even at the cinema level, even though the cameras are enabled to shoot some of them 3K, 4K, 5K, even in terms of the red epics, and we can display 4K. The truth is that the center of that pipeline is still 2K, and so there's a bottleneck, and that's in visual effects. Visual effects renders right now are not, visual effects companies cannot operate cost effectively above 2K for their native rendering process. So we can all charge to 4K, but it'll only be the stuff that's mostly live action, which is not most movies these days. It will apply more on the broadcast side. Now, the reason I'm cautionary is because if we have bandwidth available, if we have bitrate headroom available, we should use it for temporal resolution, meaning higher frame rates. And that's not such a big issue in the broadcast industry because it's already 60i enabled right now and moving to 60p presumably in the next year or so. At least some of the networks are talking about making that their goal, such as ESPN and so on. So I don't think that the higher frame rate is as big an issue for broadcast. I think it's a big issue on the movie side because I think the broadcast industry is pulling away from the movies rapidly in this area of frame rate. I believe broadcast has made the right decision. The movie industry is going in the wrong direction, which is getting too overly focused on spatial resolution. You know, what's the area array? If you've got a 4K picture, you're talking about 4 times the data rate of a 2K picture because it's essentially 4 2K pictures, as opposed to doing 2K at 48 or 60p, in which case you're only at 2 or 2.5 times the bit rate to achieve a better looking picture because you've removed all the motion artifacts. But that's a fairly technical area. I'm pretty outspoken on it. The other thing is that most people don't understand is that a lot of the 4K, so-called 4K projectors, because they're 3D compatible, are using an optical system that's built into the projector, and they're simultaneously displaying 2 2K pictures in a stack so that they're displaying simultaneously on the screen as opposed to the time sequential process. And by doing that, they've essentially gone from 4K down to a quarter of that resolution of 2K. And it is also the case for the non-3D films because they have to run them through the same projector. In terms of sets, I think the general answer is we're going to be there to service the needs of whatever people adopt in this. We can handle the frame rates, we can handle the resolution issues, and we welcome any improvements in any of those areas that are industry wide, and we're ready to service them.
But we're almost on the side of the customer, if you will, because one of the unique factors of the company is we try and look at it as a complete end-to-end solution. We don't just take one kind of spike in the marketplace and say, oh, that's going to change everything. That was what we're doing. I think we're embracing higher resolution and where it takes advantage for 3D, but we're also looking at it from the end to end. How does it impact the whole infrastructure? And I think one of our strengths to make these alliances is to try and push the industry towards a goal that it works for everybody. Not just one piece of the puzzle, and so I think it's critical to embrace those technologies, but also to evaluate them in the overall goal of where we want to end up, and that is, good 3D entertainment that is cost effectively produced worldwide.
Okay, so in terms of the broadcaster who has spectrum that's been given to him by the government that they've now given up their other spectrum, how do broadcasters use their spectrum to transmit 3D under their current limitations of what else they have to use it for?
One of the earliest adopters was B-Sky, who are satellite primarily, and the truth is that right now the early standard for 3D is basically that if you can manage an HD signal, anybody who can move an HD signal can move a 3D signal, because the HD frame is subdivided into two essentially half HD pictures that are then recombined. They don't get recombined until inside your brain, actually, interestingly enough. They display on the screen time sequentially. They're transmitted to the set simultaneously. They're split apart, displayed time sequentially, and decoded into your and you put the pictures back together in your head. So you're looking at an HD picture in 3D, but it's not full HD on the left eye and the right eye. That would be the next stage, and that would require a doubling of the bandwidth. But it's not necessary right now. You only need full HD for each eye for cinema-sized displays. You don't need them. You don't need it for home displays. That's my opinion, anyway.
And I think you'll see technologies that extract it from a panel display and back into a 2D. So I think there's a lot of room to discuss the distribution of the model. I think our focus is to ramp up more of the content foundation so that we're talking about more volume coming down the pipeline. Because right now I think that's a little bit of the bottleneck is some of the 2D productions out there exhibiting their product in 3D in a cost-effective manner. I think that's probably our first hurdle or threshold to concentrate on.
Right. If you saw the keynote, there's no point beating the horse any longer.